Good evening, guys. Welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. It's Friday night and we are all preparing for another game week. It's time to make those last-minute decisions. No Gianni tonight, but I am delighted to be joined by Abdul FPL Salah, as you will all know him, I'm sure. How are you doing, mate?
I'm good, Dean. Thanks. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you for joining us tonight. Everybody, feel free to get your comments in to both of us. Any questions for Abdul or myself, obviously, we will try to help you with your team selections. Great to have everyone joining us in the chat. I already see a sneaky couple of questions about Mitrovic getting in. Don't worry, we will be covering during this episode. And obviously, the big one this weekend is going to be Arsenal. The Arsenal game, that we will be getting stuck into that one properly. We'll be doing predicted lineups and we'll be assessing how we think it will open up, who we think you need, who we think you don't need anymore. So don't miss the full Pep Roulette section. But yeah, let's just start by checking in with you, Abdul. I mean, how is your season going so far, mate?
Yeah, I think it's okay, Dean. I'm around about 187k so far.
Nice.
So after 10 game weeks, I think
that's better than okay, mate. I think people will be biting your hand off to have a start like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess when you've got like 10 million players in the game, it is a really good start. But yeah, hoping it continues. I had a few kind of bumpy game weeks, but kind of pulled it back last game week, thanks to James Maddison.
Yeah, nice one. No, that is a really actually impressive ranking for this season. It's been a tough one. FPL River, Gianni, who Abdul is a legend. Look like you got a little fan base here, mate. So you should be very, very at home. Yeah, I sneaked into. Finally, I'm like in the top 800,000 or something now. Like it's been fine. The season's been fine, but that Maddison performance helps me edge above quite a few people who hadn't quite taken the plunge, I guess, on him yet. But I think a few in this environment definitely had James Maddison. We did a stream on Monday. We had James Richardson on here, and he had Maddison. He was praying Maddison would deliver. He's so good, isn't he, Maddison?
Yeah, he's just FPL terms. He's actually a perfect asset. You know, he's now like a 90-minute man as well. You know, he's on free kicks, he's on corners. You know, he's got a goal and assist threat. You know, for FPL terms, you can't really ask for much better. And the funny thing is like when I didn't actually realize how low his ownership was until Monday night when I checked. I mean, when you're looking at Twitter and like, you know, all the kind of like-minded people, it seems like I thought his ownership was going to be somewhere like 80%, but it was like 18%. I was like, wow. I guess it goes to show like how like this little bubble of ours, you know, so kind of constricted, isn't it?
I noticed that too, actually, in my mini league with my mates. Like, there's some people in there that are good, but they don't take it anywhere near as seriously as us lot do. And I was very surprised. Out of a 14-team league, only 3 people had James Maddison.
Yeah,
I was so surprised about it, but I guess it makes sense if you haven't been playing with a close enough eye. Dal has said in the comments, Dean, help me please. Is a 105 game week and a rank rise from 278,000 to 56,000 any good? Are you winding me up here? Are you winding me up? Of course it's good. Congratulations. That sounds like you should be hosting rather than me. Neil Cheeseman, Maddison's quality with passing and shots is incredible. Look, the big thing that's going to come of interest of James Maddison, obviously he's not going to stay at Leicester forever, is he?
I think so.
Where do you think he should land? Like, would you? There's a big difference here between going to like a smaller step and landing at like Newcastle, or going to that bigger step and I don't know, Tottenham, Man United have been mooted. I don't know if it's believable, but you know, where do you think he should step?
I mean, my initial thought would be Spurs. I think that's probably like a fair level for him. If you'd like, I mean, I think he'd be good at United as well, but you'd probably say Spurs are ahead of United at the moment. So I think Spurs is a good side for him. I think that's a team you can go to where he would probably get, you know, he'd be a first team player similar to Leicester. When you're looking at like teams like I think Chelsea, Liverpool, City, you know, I don't think he kind of walks into those teams like, you know, in starting 11. So yeah, I think if James Maddison, I think United or Spurs Spurs being like, the probably the favourites to sign him. I think they're good fits for him, I think.
Yeah, someone said to me the other day, like, could he be the new Christian Eriksen at Tottenham? I guess kind of. He could be, couldn't he? He can deliver from the right. He can drop him deeper. He's a bit of a playmaker, but he can control games too. Would be a really interesting signing, no doubt. Guys, remember to like and subscribe tonight. Gianni's not here to ask you that. CH hopefully is around somewhere to remind you all too. But never mind. If I'm sure most of you have already. Never give up FPL. The last one before we move on. Kane out, Aubameyang in. Let's go crazy. Ooh, I don't mind that at all. We're going to talk about Aubameyang later on because I've got some hot takes on him. But let's start by going fresh off the press. All right, I'm sure you've all been trawling the injury lists today, getting those little bits of team news. So anything jumping out at you guys, put it in the comments and I'll pick up on some of them in a minute and we will answer your questions. There's a few things that have jumped out at me, so I'll start with them, Abdul. I noticed that Patrick Bamford, Jesse Marsh saying he's basically ready to play now. And with Sinisterra out for this match, you can imagine that there is going to be that temptation now, right? Like Leeds need him, don't they?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, it's a shame how how kind of injury prone he's been in the last few seasons. We've seen like in his debut season with Leeds, was it 17 goals he got and like 11 assists or something like that. So I mean, and when he came on, who were they playing last game week? Sorry, I've just it's totally slipped my mind, but it was whoever was the one that they were playing. When he came on, he just totally kind of changed the game. Like he was
Leeds played Aston Villa. Was that the one you're thinking of?
Yeah, Aston Villa. That was it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And he was, he's one of those players that again, for FPL terms, he creates chances and he gets in good scoring positions as well. So he's going to be huge for Leeds, and I really hope he stays fit this season because I think he can be a great FPL asset when he's fit. But unfortunately, the last few months has been a bit tough for him.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's it, isn't it? We want to get a look at Patrick Bamford because we want to know if he's an asset going forward. Look, they've got Crystal Palace this weekend, Leeds, away fixture. It's a tough one, really could go either way. That the week after that, Leeds have got Arsenal. Like, you need everyone possible available for that. Week after that, it's Leicester. So, like, it's a really tricky time, that very different fixtures that they've got on the horizon. But for this Leeds team, we're really not sure which part of this division they're going to end up in at this stage. So really interested to hear what you guys are thinking about Bamford. Is he on the watch list? What are you thinking? So the other thing I wanted to pick up on before we get into the comments is there's a couple of key things in the Everton-Man United game coming up this weekend. Obviously, it's a big one. So Rafael Varane might be okay for United. This is interesting because obviously Maguire is still out. I know a lot of people mock Maguire, but look, he's still a good footballer. I'm not having that he's a complete clown like some people might have. But United v Everton really does feel like a 50-50 game to me. And Lindelof, I guess, would start and alongside Martinez. It just might be something that Everton fancy getting at. And on the flip of this, we're now seeing that Dominic Calvert-Lewin is coming back into contention. Now, I'm not totally convinced he'll start this game, but if it's a close game, which I expect it to be, I think we might well see him. Like, this is another big thing, like the return of Bamford, but also the return of Calvert-Lewin, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just like Bamford, he's a great FPL asset, and when he was fit, I mean, he's like one of the best mid-price forwards in the game, for sure. But I don't know what's been up with him. I think I don't know. I mean, like, he has been injured, but I think there's a bit more to it than his injuries. Maybe, I don't know, but. Yeah, he's back this week. I agree with you in terms. I don't think he'll start. He'll always start with Maupay, and then he's one of those where he'll come on late in the game. But yeah, again, he's such a good finisher. We saw what he's kind of capable of in his last few seasons at Everton. When he was fit, he was banging the goals in. But yeah, let's see. He could be one for the next few weeks, I guess.
Yeah, he's had a really tough year, hasn't he? But Ricardo asks Bamford or Martial. I think. Honestly, if both of these players are fully fit, I think I honestly would go Martial.
Yeah.
But obviously, this is the problem, isn't it? I don't know which of these players is going to be fit for how long. I mean, where would you be leaning here?
I really fancy Martial, and like I did kind of look at him as my Mitrovic replacement if Mitrovic was going to be out for a good few weeks. It's one of those where it's so risky, but so like it's got such high upside. I mean, if he's fit, 6.9 million, he is. I mean, we know him being fit is a big caveat, and he's not been fit for a good few years now. But if he is fit, then he's definitely the best option in that price point. And look at the next few features, like their fixtures. They've got Everton up next. They've got Newcastle at home. Then they've got Spurs at home. Okay, they're not the best fixtures, but they're both at home, and then you'd expect United to score in them. And then after that Chelsea game in game week 13, they've got a great run up right up until game week 19. So he's definitely one I would look at. I mean, I guess if you're a bit of a maverick and upside chaser, the next few weeks could be good. But I mean, I'm a bit too kind of safe to kind of go for that type of player, but I do like the pick.
Yeah, it's fair enough. CH says the latest Twitter plan for Mitro is to play him and have a good first bench.
Yeah.
I think that's probably fair. As I say, we're going to get into Mitro a little bit later. What I will say is that Mitro usually, if he's half fit, then in his mind he's fully fit. It's a bit of a strange one, this, because the reporting today, like from the press conference, is that Mitrovic's problem comes from the international break. Well, obviously, he played Fulham's last match against Newcastle. He started that game. He only came off once that game was dead, right? Fulham were not coming back into that game at the point Mitrovic came off. And if it had been more competitive at that point, I was thinking immediately, I was at the game and I thought, he's only coming off. He's obviously felt this the whole game, but the game's done. Like, Fulham got 10 men. This game's finished. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Mitrovic will start?
You know what? I saw Marco Silva's press conference today. Well, I saw like the 3-minute clip of that question where I think I'm pretty sure that the reporter who was asking him those questions had him in his fantasy football team because he was asking all the right questions. He was like, is he going to start? What type of injury it is? And from Marco Silva's comments, I really think. I mean, don't kind of quote me on this, but I'm applying this to my own team. I think he'll start. Because we were talking kind of pre-stream as well, whereas I think it's one of those injuries where, as you said, Mitrovic is like one of the toughest guys around. He's going to want to play, and he's not going to start on the bench. I mean, I think there's a small chance he starts on the bench, so it's either going to be a start or he's out completely. And from those, from his comments, from Marco Silva's comments today, I think he's going to start.
Cricket fan says he's got Bailey and Mitro. Should he be going to Bailey and Zaha? Would you do that one?
Bailey to Zaha, yeah, for sure.
No, Mitro to Zaha. He's keeping Bailey, but he's considering Mitro to Zaha.
I don't think so. I think I'd maybe look at another route to get to Zaha. Yeah. I mean, look at Mitrovic's fixtures. I mean, Marco Silva said today as well. He says if he's not back this weekend, he's going to be back for sure against Bournemouth. He actually said that. And, Fulham's fixtures after this week are fantastic. You're going to want to keep Mitrovic.
They are, yeah. I mean, to be honest, as a Fulham fan, I wouldn't mind him missing this game. I don't think Fulham are going to beat West Ham anyway.
Yeah.
And to have him available for the home games against Bournemouth and Aston Villa, for me, much, much more important. I really don't want him risking his injury. And I said the other day as well, like, we do have to consider things are a bit different now with players risking injuries because the World Cup is 6 weeks away. Like, that is going to be on players' mind. And even Mitro possibly will be thinking, am I definitely fit enough to start this game? Maybe he'll think that. I know he's a bit of a worry.
Point, yeah.
Right, what else have we got? John Cahill says, is Danny Welbeck worth a punt? I mean, look, Brighton, they're looking like they're going to carry on from where they left off under Potter. Tottenham at home's not an easy fixture, but what I will say is Brighton are a much better team to watch than Tottenham. Tottenham have obviously got that strong mindset, and all Conte really cares about is winning. Would you be tempted to go for Danny Welbeck?
I don't think so. And it's mostly because of like the other forward options we've got. I think I'd be more interested in like Trossard. He's been fantastic this even before his hat trick. Against Liverpool, he's been getting in amongst the points. Since the start of the season. Welbeck seems like he's. Again, I'm looking at it more. He's been fantastic, for Brighton, but from an FPL perspective, he's not a good option. I don't think. He'll get a goal and assist here and there, but nothing too major.
I totally agree with you. I think Danny Welbeck's a really good team player, and if like you had him in an actual football team, it'd be amazing. FPL, I just think there are much better ways to
Yeah.
go out there and get points. A question for you: if you had Perisic and Mitrovic, which one would you start if you could only start one of them?
Oh, good question. I think I'd go Mitrovic and then put Perisic first on the bench, just because I do think Mitrovic will start. I think he'll either start or miss out completely. So yeah, I'd go Mitrovic.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you. CH says, if you're enjoying the discussion, get your likes in. And I 100% agree. Right. Okay, let's move on. There is a massive match we need to preview. Let's play Pep Roulette. Right, in the comments right now, you can start letting me know if I'm wrong. I think Arsenal are favourites to win this game. I actually expect Arsenal to win this game, and I'll be surprised if they don't. So give me your takes in the comments on who you expect to win this game, and we'll come back to it in a minute while we go through the Arsenal team first of all. Now, Abdul, the thing I love about predicting Arsenal at the moment, and I think is actually a strength of theirs, is that it's really easy to predict their team. Like, as long as there are no injury concerns, 50-50s, I think the team pretty much takes care of itself, don't you?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think they're, and I think they do have a fully fit squad. I know Zinchenko didn't start midweek, but I think he's totally fit to play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when they've got, as you said, when they've got a fit squad, it's probably one of the most predictable squads in the league.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think that not only is it predictable, it's great. And this is the thing that Arsenal have over Liverpool going into this fixture. They have the confidence and the belief and the routines that Liverpool would usually have. Liverpool would usually be coming into this game knowing exactly what's going to happen. I think last season, I think Liverpool won 2-0 and 4-0 against Arsenal. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I just don't see that this season. How do you see Arsenal approaching this game?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I mean, I think they'll approach it quite positively, and I think they'll kind of, do as they have been, throughout the whole season, just, attack and go for the win. Whereas, in previous seasons, you would not see that. I think this Arsenal team is, I mean, I don't want to get carried away, but they do look like the real deal this season. And you're right. I mean, it was actually something that came into my head like last week when I knew this fixture was was going ahead, and I thought, who's going to be the favourites for this game? I've got Arsenal as slight favourites, and then I went to check the odds, and it was pretty much evens. But in the last few days, like I checked it today, and Arsenal have moved to slight favourites.
Have they? That's interesting.
Yeah, they actually have moved to slight favourites, and I don't remember that ever being the case like in the last 5 seasons. Since kind of Klopp came in, Liverpool have never. Arsenal have never been favourites against Liverpool in the last 5 seasons. So it goes to show, like, when something is reflected in the bookmakers, I'm not kind of condoning betting here or anything, but, they do have, good information, and, the information is solid. So when you're seeing those changes in the bookmakers, it's when like, it's for real, I think.
Yeah. If you were to rank 3 Arsenal assets for this game week, who would be your 1, 2, 3 that you would be wanting in your team?
I'd say Jesus number 1.
Yeah.
And then Martinelli and then Saka.
Yeah. Interesting. That Saka Martinelli thing, I feel like it's going to flip flop. But do you think Martinelli just because of the value, or is there more than that?
I mean, exactly. That's the only reason I picked him ahead with Saka, is because of the price difference. But I think like for like, they're quite similar.
Yeah, I love that. I said that obviously Arsenal, I think, are favourites. There's so many people going draws. Haley says 1-1. Never Give Up says 3-3. Alfred says he thinks it'll be 2-2. FPL River, I'm sitting on the fence. This is going to be a draw. Kushan says,
I do agree. I do think it'll be a high scoring game.
Do you?
Yeah, I think it will.
Yeah, really interesting. Let's move on and get the Liverpool team, and then we'll take this debate on a little bit further, because I think this suddenly has become a lot more interesting than it looked a week ago. So here's our likely lineup running along the bottom of the screen right now. And look, basically, I've gone on the back of what their Champions League lineup was. I've actually switched Henderson for Fabinho here. I think it's up in the air. I think you were saying before the show you'd stick Henderson, would you?
Yeah, I just think because Fabinho's not been playing too well this season, and I do remember in that Brighton game last week, I remember Klopp going ballistic at Fabinho. So I think kind of for that reason, I think he'll stick with Hendo.
Here's the thing, right? So we knew coming into the season, like losing Sadio Mane, signing Darwin Nunez, having a bad start, something had to change, and it was probably going to be the formation. I've been waiting for a little while for Liverpool to mix things up. Klopp says that against Rangers they played 4-4-2. They didn't really, did they? They played a 4-2-3-1. I think you can see heat maps. It shows more of a 4-2-3-1. It does allow them to get, obviously, those 4 attacking players into the lineup. It allows Nunez to be a bit more of his own man rather than have to fit into the roles that have already been set in place before he's arrived at the club, which I don't think he really suits, to be honest with you. The big question now comes, is Klopp brave enough to play a 4-2-3-1 at the Emirates against the league leaders to try and turn around Liverpool's season? Because let's face it, if Liverpool lose this game, you could probably argue they're out the title race. I
mean, personally, I'd say they're already out the title race, and I think them actually getting beat would probably I'd probably say, like, you know, they're out the race for second. I think they'd be targeting top 4 after this. Personally, I think the title race is. I mean, I think they've got a chance of catching Arsenal, but I don't think they've got a chance of catching City.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? I don't think anyone's got a chance of catching City, and I agree. Like, we're trying to invent a title race right now with Arsenal starting well, but the reality is it's probably not going to happen. What do you make of this Liverpool lineup? Because I just feel if they were to go back to the 4-3-3, they could get back into old habits. Bad feelings and thoughts could come quickly set back in. We've seen how frequently Liverpool have conceded the first goal. There's no doubt, is there, that Arsenal are going to go into this game. I think in the last 3 games, actually, Arsenal have scored within the first 20 minutes of a game. They can do it here. Oh, I don't know. How do Liverpool stop the rot, if you like?
I mean, I actually think, you know, Liverpool will kind of have a lot more of a pragmatic approach to this game than they usually would. I think they need to kind of just win this game. But I do think, you know, Arsenal won't allow that. I think Arsenal will get, you know, the first goal, and then that will kind of force Liverpool to kind of play. But I do agree that I think they'll start in the same formation as they did with Rangers. I think they'll, you know, go with that, you know, the 4 foot, like, you know, Salah, Jota, Diaz, and Darwin. Yeah. And you know, kind of see what it goes from there. And I think in that game as well, like, you know, they did play like a deeper back line. Like Trent Alexander-Arnold was, you know, pretty much, you know, in his own half. You know, I checked the heat maps, the average position maps, and, you know, it's the first time you've ever seen him in his own half. You know, so I think he wants that defensive solidity, and I think he would just take a win in this game.
I agree. Yeah, PSB makes an interesting point. It says he sees Firmino starting this game ahead of Jota/Nunez, but that is very different. Like, where would Firmino fit in if they do play a 4-2-3-1? Is Firmino the 1, or I can't imagine him playing in the 3 behind? Can you?
I would say if it's either out of Jota and Firmino, probably playing as the 9. That's. I mean, if there's one position in the forward line, I think, you know, I would say it was going to be Firmino ahead of Jota, and the only reason I'm going for Jota is because he came off early in the Champions League game. He came off in the 69th minute, which kind of indicates to me where I think he'll start this game. But yeah, I think the game is suited to those 4, you know, Salah, Jota, Diaz, and Darwin rather than Firmino. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if you start Firmino. He's been playing great. You know, he's been delivering when he starts, so that's all he could do.
It feels like he's proving a point to me. He's not done yet. T says the title race is an illusion. Man City are unstoppable with Haaland. Let's eat some bad sardines. That is probably a fair point. I saw somebody, Moaz saying, I want to give Salah and Trent one more chance. Of course you do. We all know what these players are capable of. And I think we're probably going to get into that conversation in a second, because we're going to get stuck into now showing you our team reveals. Okay, so it's me first. I had a decent game week last week. I think I got 96 points, I think it was. It was a good game week. Obviously, this front 3 I'm counting on big time this season. I didn't start with this freemium, Abdul, but I turned to it on about game week 4, I think. I was like, no, do you know what? I'm just going to get the 3 players I think are going to be 1, 2, and 3 in the goal scoring charts at the moment. Because do you know why I did it? Because there was no predictability about what I was seeing at that point, and I had to take a punt on something happening, and Salah was in such a slump that I was like, okay, I can't bank on this. Surely I can bank on Haaland, Jesus, and Kane. What do you think of my team? Because this is probably the first time you've seen it.
Yeah, no, you know what? I looked at that team and I thought I really like it because it's totally different to any team I mean, it's totally different to the template, right?
Yeah.
And it's actually a good team, and you're in a good position because you've already got Kane and Haaland and Jesus, right? And I mean, Kane's going to come in really hard in the game week 11, when they play Everton at home. And I think, you might be tempted to switch the captain, say to him, when City are playing Liverpool away. But
yeah,
I really like that team. I think the one player who I'm not too convinced on is Bernardo Silva. But I mean, I guess he's been chipping away. He got an assist last game week as well.
Well, that's the thing. So Bernardo's only been in my team for 2 weeks, and he's delivered in both weeks. He was never going to be a long-term pick. I can't remember who I replaced him with. He was basically a holder. Basically, I've still got three odd million in the bank. I was thinking basically I bought him, and I was holding cash back because I was thinking I probably need to jump back onto Salah at some point soon. I still don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't know how my transfers are going to open up at the moment. I'm really not sure what we're getting from Salah, but I think we'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. I haven't actually made any transfers this week. I don't like my goalkeeper. I think Brighton are going to concede loads of goals under De Zerbi. We talked about this the other day here. Mm-hmm. They're a great watch. They'll score loads of goals, but I don't know if you would agree that they're going to probably concede more than they did under Potter.
I think so. I mean, I haven't looked. I mean, I've read a little bit about De Zerbi, in his last 2 teams, and he does play a lot of, from what I've read, he plays a lot of possession-based football and attacking football. So yeah, I think on that basis, you'd probably say they probably will concede more than they did up under Potter. But yeah, I guess we'll only find out in the next few weeks. When they've got a few fixtures under their belt.
Yeah, I'd love to get your take on Zaha. Every week, people tell me, Dean, you need Zaha. And look, what put me off is Palace had a really difficult start to the season. They've played like 3 or 4 of the top teams in the division. Yeah. So I think looking at the league table right now and judging Crystal Palace is a little bit unfair because they've had a tougher start than most teams. And they are now coming into a nice spell. So Crystal Palace face Leeds at home, Leicester away, Wolves at home, Everton away, Southampton home. It's a really nice 5-game spell. If you look on the fixture difficulty ratings, can't get it out, then it's all green at the moment. It's all green and it looks good. I just don't know. about Zaha. How are you reading his form?
I'm a big fan of Zaha. I mean, like on my wild card last week, when I played it in Game Week 8, my 3 kind of nailed picks in midfield were Maddison, Salah, and Zaha. I just think, I mean, you read those fixtures out there, Dean, and it's like you don't get much better than that. I mean, even after like the kind of toughish game in Game Week 15 against West Ham, they've got Forest, Fulham, and Bournemouth, which is like the 3 promoted teams. So yeah, his fixtures don't get much better. We know he's a kind of proven FPL asset. He has got a lot more consistent over the last few seasons, and he's on penalties as well. He's nailed to start. I don't think there's not much to like about him.
Yeah, no, £7.3 million. He's 18% owned at the moment. Look, I would probably be tempted to switch Bernardo to him, but Man City are playing Southampton at home. I mean, that could be 9-0.
Yeah, but then Bernardo. Yeah, but again, Silva will probably come out with an assist. But if they score 1, he's quite likely to get it as well. I don't know. I mean, I think you could hold off this week, and then maybe look to get Zaha in the following week against Leicester or Wolves. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I don't think I will swap Bernardo out this week, but I'll stick Zaha on my watch list, if not for me, but for everybody else who wants me to have him. NK says, anyone doubting Zaha is going to be eating humble pie when the World Cup comes around. PSB says, I really like Zaha. I wish he was successful at Man United. Yeah, I think he does too, to be honest. That was a big moment for him that passed him by. With 3.2 in the bank, you could do Aronson to Zaha. That is a good point. I could, but as I say, I was holding back that money really just in case I wanted to get to a bigger player. Not many people have him in mind, but I had Sterling in mind just in case he started to hit form. He hasn't really, and he's stumbling around a little bit at the moment, so I'm not tempted. But Aubameyang's doing well. We'll see. I want to move on anyway from my team because I look at this every week and so do you guys. Let's move on to look at Abdul's team because, well, he's better at the game than me, and I think we'll all learn something. So before we start, let's just talk us through your team.
Yeah, so I've got Ward and Ray in goal. I think I'll play Ward this week because his clean sheet chances are a lot higher according to the bookmakers, and I think Newcastle away is a tough game anyway. Do you want me to read out the players or just kind of?
Yeah, just any like key points that you think
Yeah.
worth
So
talking about.
I mean, I got a wild carded last week, so I think I've got a really good squad this week. Obviously, the only kind of caveat there is Mitrovic. I've got him first on the bench there, but I set this team in before the team news, so I think I would start Mitrovic ahead of Mark Guy now and put him first on the bench. But yeah, I think the team is pretty good. I mean, I think up until game week 16 when we break off for the World Cup, you know, they're all the players have got good fixtures. There's no doubt about Haaland captaincy. You know, no need to look anywhere else. I think the one kind of player where I think people will be looking at my team and thinking, you know, what's he doing with that player? It's probably Solanke, but I'm keeping faith in him.
Yeah, Gianni, who obviously usually hosts this show, is a Solanke hater. I would say
I know,
he really is a hater. And look, I don't particularly rate Bournemouth as an attacking outfit, and that, so I can see why he wouldn't like them. But what is the reason that you have Solanke?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because I do agree. I do think. I mean, even if you look at the stats, I mean, Bournemouth are actually, you know, quite far ahead, the worst attacking team in the league. If you look at their respected goals, and the other one scored 6 goals in the season as well, which, you know, only Wolves have scored less. But the reason for him is because of his price. He's only 5.7 million. And on my wild card, he allowed me to get Cancelo instead of Trippier. So although that move didn't work out last week, I think over the long term, you know, I think Solanke and Cancelo was better than Trippier and Tony, which was my choice at the time. So it's really only that, mostly his price point and the fact that he is a 90-minute man. He's on penalties, and you know he is, you know, the kind of the talisman for Bournemouth. So even though they are a really poor team, it doesn't mean you know, he's a poor FPL option. So I mean, I think we've seen in the past with like Timo Pukki, for example, you know, Norwich in the last 2 seasons they were here, they scored like 23, 26 goals, which was the least in the league, and they finished bottom both times. But you know, Pukki scored 11 goals, you know, in both those seasons. I'm not saying he's as good as Pukki, but I do think, you know, the point I'm trying to make is that I think, you know, with poor attacking teams, you can still have you know, good FPL players in that, you know, depending on their price.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. Anyone joining us right now, just a reminder, Gianni away this week. We are joined by Abdul, aka FPL Salah. If you have any questions for him specifically, get them in, and we will go through those at the end. Also, feel free to rate his team right now. A. Dawson has a question. What is your total points right now? I know you said you were like 187,000. What's your point tally right now? Mine is, while he's looking for that, mine is 514. I'm currently on. My ranking is 859,000.
Yeah, so I'm 542. So I mean, like, those 40 points, you know, is nothing. It can be made up in like 2 game weeks. And you know, I mean, look at the difference, like 187k to 800k. So the points are really kind of condensed at the moment. The ranks are really condensed.
You'll have a better idea than me historically. I mean, we're on game week 10. This seems very, very tight. Like, in 2 game weeks to be able to jump that many. Is it always like this, or do you think this is a strange season?
No, I do think it's always like this. But I do think this season, you know, the teams have been a lot more similar, like, you know, just due to how the FPL have priced the players. But usually, yeah, I mean, I think once we get to like kind of game week 15, 16, you know, once we kind of hit Christmas and January time, then it starts to kind of open up a bit. But yeah, this is quite normal, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, look, no one's asked you this question, so I'm going to ask it. You've got Salah in your team.
Yeah.
Is that because you are FPL Salah, or do you genuinely believe that this man's on the verge of turning things around?
No. I mean, when it comes to FPL, Dean, right, there's no sentiments. Like, you know, if I thought he was a bad FPL option, I wouldn't have picked him. The reason I went for him is that I know his stats and his output have been nowhere near as good as last season, you know, at this stage last season, but he has still been putting up decent stats. And I do think, you know, when I got him last week, he had that Brighton game at home, which I thought was really kind of, you know,
Me too, yeah.
And I did think, you know, against Arsenal and City, you know, those would be high scoring games. So yeah, I mean, the reason I've got him is, you know, because I think he's a good asset still, and I think he's going to come good sooner or later. I think, a big part of his kind of downturn in form has been Liverpool's downturn in form. So I think both those factors are going to change soon, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I do think that specifically when I think Jota brings something different out of Salah. I think he likes having him in the team. I think he misses having Mane in the team too.
Yeah.
I think that the whole outlook of that attacking line has changed. Do you think he'll benefit from if they do change this formation going forward? Especially, look at the fixtures: Arsenal, Man City, West Ham. 3 tough games.
Yeah.
Do you have more faith in keeping Salah now in this new system?
See, I don't know, because when I looked at his position map in that game, I mean, Darwin, Jota, and Diaz were really central, whereas Salah was more kind of, more wide. But if you look at his stats, he still had like 3 or 4 shots in the box. So I don't know. I mean, I can't answer. I really can't answer that question after one game. But just looking at those, position maps, I would prefer them to be a lot more central rather than kind of, out in the wing.
Yeah, it's crazy. 31% of people now own in Salah, and 82% on Haaland. I mean, I think 82 on Haaland. I mean, that's basically everyone who's like active in the game. Surely, like it can't be far off that, can it?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Mad.
NK says the new system actually slows down Salah. So kind of, like you say, like you can't be sure. I mean, as you say, we've seen it one time. Yeah. Who knows what we're actually getting? Nuclear Atoms has a question. A -4, Salah, Sinisterra out for Trossard and Foden, or would you just do one of those transfers?
Yeah, I would. I mean, if you've got the money for Sinisterra and to Foden, I would do that. Otherwise, no, I wouldn't do that. Then move for a -4.
No, I don't think that makes too much sense. Nuclear, so be careful. Dal is asking how many Premier League games we watch on a weekend. I mean, I don't watch all of them in their entirety. I unfortunately have two. Well, not unfortunately have 2 children. I'm happy to have 2 children, not because I have 2 children. I unfortunately don't have time. Sometimes I probably do feel that way. But yeah, I can't quite watch 90 minutes of all 10 games, but I certainly see half of them in the full running and probably watch extended highlights of the rest. How about you?
Yeah, I'll probably catch 1 or 2 games, live games, and then the rest of them I'll probably, watch extended highlights or match of the day. Yeah, it's not possible to watch all 10 games, is it really?
No, I'll tell you what a bit of a cheat can be as well. On match of the day and stuff, if there's like some, there's a game which you think is going to be boring. I don't know. Say Brentford were playing Leicester or something, and you had some FPL interest, but you didn't really want to watch the game. Like, just watch some of the analysis of these games. Like, it'll be like a 2 or 3 minute segment, and you'll take something away from it that you probably wouldn't have watched if you'd watched it in 90 minutes on your own anyway. So sometimes if you're just like haven't got time on your side, you can record a show like Match of the Day and just get to the analysis points, and you'll just take in a load of information. I have done that before when I've needed like quick catch ups and stuff, just to know like some big takeaways. And so that's always something good to do, guys, if you are looking for something different to do. Paul Cook says, Haaland ownership, will he reach over 90%? Depends if 90% of people are actually still playing this game. I don't know what it tends to be. Obviously, loads of teams are just set to forget and people just wander off after a couple of game weeks. So I'm not sure, but certainly anyone who is actively playing this game, if they haven't got Haaland at this point, then they are in a hiding to nothing, I would imagine. Right, I think it's time to move on. The next segment is where I do something which I would not normally do against my own team, but let's get onto it against the obvious. Okay, yeah. So the part of the show where we tell you an obvious pick that you shouldn't be picking, and I've gone, forgive me, God, Alexander Mitrovic. Look, I haven't actually picked Mitrovic all season. I support Fulham, and partly I just didn't want to jinx him. But I think there are genuine reasons to not pick Mitrovic, not just for this one game week, but I've got a few concerns about the next couple of game weeks. Obviously, he has this knock. He's not playing at full capacity right now. He's going to have a fitness test ahead of this game. We don't know actually whether he will play against West Ham. There's a chance he doesn't. Beyond that, Fulham currently have 8 injury concerns. And the issue I have is that a lot of those players are out, really have an impact on the way that Mitrovic gets his goals. So if you look through at the players that have got injuries, Kenny Tete, Anthony Robinson, Kazawa, all attacking fullbacks who look to get crosses into the box, who look to play the ball into Mitrovic whenever they can. Also, Harry Wilson linked up brilliantly with Mitro last season. Willian, Mana Solomon, all missing at the moment. That does cause some concern for me. Fulham have started the season really well. They've just had a bit of a blip. It might carry on for a few games. I'm just saying Mitrovic might be about to go through a little bit of a lean spell by his standards. Okay, I did it. I went against my boy. What do you make of that? What do you make of my argument?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really argue much. I mean, it's called against obvious, isn't it? So,
well, this is it.
I guess you've got to kind of find reasons to go against them.
You've got to find reasons. And I mean, look, I haven't got him on my team, so I am actually sometimes looking for reasons not to pick Mitrovic. And there aren't many. I mean, you look at the fixture list and you say, beyond this West Ham game, which I honestly think if you want to take Mitrovic out of your team for 1 week, or you were thinking of getting him in, like, don't. You can leave him for this West Ham game, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the games after that are obviously that people are looking at: the Bournemouth, the Villa, the Leeds, the Everton, and that's fine, and I get it. But there's just something about Fulham at the moment. They do seem to be hampered by injuries at the moment. They're picking them up a lot. Mitrovic has one himself. It's just something to look out for. So beware is what I would say. Right, let's move on to your against the obvious, and this one I'm really intrigued, boy. So give me your best argument on why you're going against Reece James.
Right. Okay. So firstly, the same fixture last season ended 2-2, right? So I think when you're looking at kind of past games, I guess Wolves will have that in mind, and they'll kind of be confident in the fact that they can score. Secondly, I think Diego Costa is back at Stamford Bridge. So obviously, he's a bit of a Chelsea legend. So kind of one of those situations where it's kind of written in the stars, where Costa is going to come on as a sub and score. And Wolves are always a tough team to play against. I mean, they don't score many goals, but they've got like the likes of Costa, Podence, Guedes, Moutinho, who are all kind of, top kind of, international players. So, they've got that on their side as well. I know this one doesn't make sense, but he got a goal and assist in his Champions League game in the midweek. So I think for this week he's used up his attacking returns, so he's not going to get any this week. And then Chelsea haven't been the best defensively as well. They conceded 10 goals, which is like 12th in the league. So yeah, they haven't been too good at the back.
Yeah, fair enough. This is a brave argument to make. Obviously, I mean, he is well owned within the game. And he's an extremely good player. I mean, looking at that Milan performance in midweek, I mean, he was the best player on the pitch. Equally, AC Milan were put on a horrible performance. Like it was everything AC Milan haven't been for the last 18 months, but they had injury problems of their own, so it's hard to know how to judge it. I think to back your argument, I think that Chelsea, they'll still be blips in the way that they move forward. Graham Potter obviously has made a pretty good start as Chelsea manager, but there are going to be problems that come along, and they'll lose some games that they're not expected to. The other thing, Wolves don't score goals, do they? But they are banking on Diego Costa, like coming in on a horse with his shirt off and just riding to the rescue, literally. Like that. They need the old Costa. I mean, he's 33 now. He did leave Chelsea in very controversially, didn't he, in 2017? So he's definitely got a point to prove here. He either scores or he gets sent off. I don't know which one it is. Yeah. But no, you put up a good argument there. Let us know what you think, people. Would you be picking Reece James or Alexander Mitrovic in your teams? A lot of you probably are, and understandably so. CH says James has used up his attacking quota for the week. Quote of the stream. It might be a thing. We'll find out, won't we? We'll find out.
It's one of those psychological things where anytime I see like one of my players, and I know it makes no sense at all, but every time I see one of my FPL players like scoring well in Champions League, I think, he's used up his. He's not going to score in the weekend now. So, but yeah, it doesn't make sense at all.
Well, someone said this to me about Haaland the other day. They said, well, you can take Haaland out for the Southampton game because something has to stop. And he either is rested or he just doesn't score. I was like, but that is so illogical because he's playing against one of the worst teams in the Premier League. He scored 3 successive home hat tricks and he's at home again.
Yeah.
He's not going to be rested, and he'll score surely at least one. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think
you can't bet on him not scoring a hat trick.
it's that gambler's fallacy, isn't it? Whereas if something has just happened, you think it won't happen again, but it doesn't make sense because it's got the exact same chance happening as if it didn't happen. So, yeah, I think it's one of those where it's a psychological thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, John Cahill says, "You've convinced me to go to Diego Costa." I'm not sure that was the point of his argument.
That wasn't the plan.
Thoughts on Chilwell and Sterling? That's an interesting take for you. What do you make of those two?
Oh, I mean, I think I like Sterling more than Chilwell. I think Chilwell's been out too long, and he's not really got like a sustained run in the team yet. But yeah, I like Sterling. I think he'll come good. But again, it's just for me I think if you've got room for him, like if you've got the cash, like I think Dean, you said you had a bit of cash aside for him. He is 10 million, so he's not like a risk-free punt. But yeah, I do like Sterling. I think he will eventually come good. And I mean, he's been playing like as kind of on the wing again under Potter as well, but he's been getting attacking returns. So I don't know.
Yeah. There was one game I think he played wing back, but he ended up as the most advanced player on the pitch. So I'm not sure. And Trossard did the same for him at Brighton, so I'm not sure it matters.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, no, I guess you're right.
Yeah, like that might be the best position for an attacker on the pitch under Graham Potter. Who knows? Right, we've got loads of questions coming up. Abdul, brace yourself because you're going to be a very busy man in the next 10 to 15 minutes. Everyone, it is time to talk. Get your questions in. Really interesting first question here from Nuclear. He says, Abdul, how do you analyze games from an FPL perspective? What factors do you always consider?
I mean, from an FPL perspective, honestly, I really kind of focus on stats, like more importantly, XG and XA. Well, more XG, but I look at XA as well. But I think when you're looking at FPL, those are probably the most important stats to go for. And I mean, out with the kind of eye test, I really like looking at positional maps, because that kind of shows you where, like for example, you're saying like Sterling, he started at wing back, but he was the most advanced player on the pitch. You wouldn't know that unless you actually looked at the average position map. But if you saw him starting at wing back, you'd think, oh no, he's totally not an option. So I think those are kind of in a nutshell the factors I look at. I really like looking at XG stats.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, actually. If you go into a normal app, say you were on Live Score and you were just looking at a lineup and you saw Sterling playing at wingback, it could put you off. But if you dig a bit deeper and you find out what actually happened in that game, you can uncover some real truths. Right. Paul Cook, what do you think of Eric Dyer? I mean, he's not the worst option in the world, is he? But he's probably not a go-to player. Whereabouts would you put him?
Yeah, I mean, I really think, he's one of those like not very exciting picks. I think when you've got kind of Perisic there, I mean, how much is Dyer? Let me just check. He's 5.1 million. And if you look at their fixtures, they're not great, are they? They've got Brighton away. No. You think they're gonna Everton home is good, and you got United away, Newcastle, Bournemouth. I mean, I know. I think at 5.1 million, you probably find better, value in that. I think you can go even cheaper, even down to 4.5. So, I think if you're looking at Spurs defenders, you're probably looking at Perisic or nothing.
It just makes sense, doesn't it? It seems like a bit of a punt. Jamie, well, people do always look for cheap options. I haven't heard anyone mention Willock before, but he says his stats are good. Is Willock somebody that has been on your radar at all, mate?
He hasn't actually, and I'm not actually really looked into him, but I do know he has been starting games. So I'll take kind of Jamie's word for it that his stats are good. But yeah, I mean, he's got 2 assists so far. I do know that, and he's 4.9 million. I guess he could be a possible, like if you've got Bailey there on the bench, it could be a replacement for him.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's a bit of a different one. Paolo asks about Mason Mount being a good option now. I definitely think that this is coming onto the horizon now. We talked at the start of the season about like those 8 million midfielders and stuff, and there hasn't been really anyone that you've really wanted in your team. And it does feel to me, just watching Chelsea, the few games we've seen so far under Potter, that he could emerge as a really important player in this team. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I think he could well, but I think when we've got the likes like Maddison, Bowen, even probably Luis Diaz is still an option.
Yeah.
I think I don't think there's any reason or any justification that we can pick for him out at the moment. I mean, I guess if you're really, I guess if you're kind of an upside chaser, then you can take a punt on him. But I just think with all those other kind of 8 million options that are good value and delivering, why take a punt on Mount?
Yeah, that's a good point. Haley asked a good question, and I'm surprised nobody else has mentioned him, actually. Is Grealish worth a punt this week? Look, they're playing against Southampton. One thing I know just from speaking to people that are close to Man City, like Pep Guardiola is desperate to make Jack Grealish a big part of this Man City team. He thinks that if he can get him in his flow, that he could be something very special. And obviously, this is a really key season for him after his settling in season last year. They think that the way that he attacks and then pulls balls across the box could have a really good combination with Haaland too, just an obvious one for assists. At the moment, Jack Grealish is selected by 1.2% of players in the game. He's 6.8 million. He's playing Southampton at home this weekend with Haaland as the focal point of his team. It probably is worth a punt, isn't it?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess he's not a bad punt, but the thing with Grealish is, I mean, you can't really go for 1 week punts because when you bring in Grealish, you're going to have to kind of keep him for the next few games. And I guess he's not, but when you're looking at expected minutes, there's a problem there. But he is, he's a great player, but again, he's just at the moment he's not a good FPL player.
He's not. No, I'm just looking at his points. So he got 2 points, in the Man United game. Got 10 in the Wolves game. Then he got 4 zeros in a row, a 1 and a 3. Maybe we'll give this one a little bit of time.
he's got 1 goal all season. But saying that, against Copenhagen, he was really unlucky not to score. I mean, he had about 3 or 4 shots. So the keeper, the keeper pulled off some great saves for him. But I do think he's. I mean, we know from his days at Villa, Dean, he could be a fantastic FPL option. I mean, that second season at Villa was just phenomenal. He was a great asset, and he was more expensive then as well. I think 7.5 million he was. But yeah, he's got potential. I mean, there's going to be a lot more worse punts, this week than Jack Grealish at home to Southampton. So could well work out.
Yeah, absolutely right. Punter has a dilemma for you to consider. Maddison for Diaz and Foden for Bernardo.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like those moves. I think so bringing Maddison in for Diaz and Foden for Bernardo. They're no brainers for me. I think.
Yeah.
Diaz is going to be a rotation just now going forward.
Yeah, it looks like it actually, doesn't it? That's a good point. Samir says, when Salah retires, will you change your Twitter handle?
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I don't think I ever will, because I think it's just one of those things where, honestly, it's just one of those things where it's kind of stuck now, and I don't think I can change it.
You're not going to be FPL Haaland next season, are you?
No chance. That's all my boys. So
you're not going that far. Right. Chan says, thoughts on Daka with tasty fixtures coming up and Vardy out of form. I mean, look, the way he took that goal the other day was absolutely ridiculous for a team that have been completely out of sorts. To show that sort of confidence, you've got to be some sort of special talent. I was really impressed with Daka when Leicester signed him. I thought it was going to be a really good sign. It's taken obviously a while to get to this point. But yeah, with Leicester have got a run of Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Leeds, Wolves. Not bad, is it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I was really interested in Daka last week because he started the last 2 games and he scored. But then, for some reason, Brendan benched him against Forest and started Vardy. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he did score when he came on, but I just think at the moment the fixtures are amazing. But I just don't trust kind of Brendan Rodgers to start him every week now. And then 5.7 million. He's the same price as Solanke, who is nailed and on penalties. So yeah, and who's also got good fixtures in the next 3. So yeah. I mean, it's a punt, but I just think that the last game when he was benched can really put me off.
Yeah, just make sure you got Maddison and you'll be all right in Leicester. Right. Laura says, what are your thoughts on Trossard? We crossed over this one obviously a little bit earlier. I mean, how do you follow up a hat-trick at Anfield? I mean, you can't do that every week, but he was, as you say, he was good before that point too. They've got Tottenham at home, then they got Brentford and Nottingham Forest. What are your thoughts on Trossard?
Yeah, I mean, great option. I just looking at their fixtures here, and they've got decent fixtures, I think. as you said, like the way De Zerbi plays, it's attacking, very very attacking football. So he's gonna, I think, be a good FPL option under him as well. In terms of actually, I mean, 6.7 million. I think obviously if you've got him, you keep him. But I think maybe if you haven't got him, I wouldn't be in a rush to bring him in. I just think there's probably better options, with the fixture play. But yeah, I mean, fantastic play and fantastic FPL option overall.
Yeah, absolutely right. Alfred, I wondered when someone is going to ask this. I think actually one other person did earlier. Triple captain to Haaland or wait for a double game week?
Yeah, I mean, I would say no, because I always triple captain and double game week. I just think, I just use the analogy to say all the time is, 2 tickets to the lottery is better than 1. I don't know, what do you think? Would you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, if we were going to, we could have done it any week before now, couldn't we? And if we were just going to do the 1 week, the problem I would say is like, it looks on paper like Southampton are going to get a pasting this weekend, but football doesn't always work out like that. And have been a couple of times this season where City haven't produced against teams that you thought they were going to produce against. So it would be very, very brave, Alfred, to even in this form to give him triple captaincy. And it just makes sense to wait for the double game week, because especially as he's not playing at the World Cup, he's going literally on holiday while everyone else is playing football. He's going to be rested and he's going to hit that second half of the season when those double game weeks start to crop up, and you will not want to miss them. That is the problem. Like, it's not about getting these points in the bank now. It's the what if all your mates are getting double those double points when the time comes in February or March or whenever it ends up coming.
And just on your point there about, football not always working out. Remember in game week 2, they had Bournemouth at home and he only got an assist. So he only got 5 points in that game. So Bournemouth are obviously a much worse side than Southampton. So yeah, I think definitely waiting the triple captain.
Yeah, and we were all burned too, don't forget, on Liverpool's 9 goals against Bournemouth when we were all waiting for Salah to pitch in.
Exactly.
So even if they do get 9, I know Haaland probably will score, but you just never know. Right, Tony says, Abdul and Dean, what factors do you consider in using your free hit over taking a -4 hit? Does the game 12 blank for Man City and Arsenal merit some consideration? I have Haaland, De Bruyne, Cancelo, and Martinelli. I'll leave that one to you, Abdul, because you're the pro.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't use my free hit this week. I just think, looking at the schedule, like, it's going to be really, really handy and important to use it in the second half of the season. I think most players like Tony will have, like 3 or 4 Man City and Arsenal players, and I think, you've got it's game week 9 now, so you've got 9, 10, you've got like 3 or 4 free transfers, to sort that problem out. So I think, you can, I think out of the 4 players you mentioned, I think Martinelli is probably the most dispensable. You can move Martinelli on and bring him back in later on. You can possibly even do like, Cancelo to Trent, or KDB to Salah. The only player I would always keep there is Haaland. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a need to play the free hit in game week 12.
Yeah, I'm still so annoyed that Arsenal Man City game has been cancelled, because I think it would have been such a good way for us to gauge where Arsenal are actually at right now. It's really annoying that game is not taking place. Right, Mohammed says, Ryan Sessegnon thoughts. Sorry if it's already been addressed. It hasn't really. Obviously, Tottenham have got problems at fullback at the moment, and particularly on the right. And we've seen before that they will play Sessegnon one side and Perisic the other. Do you think Sessegnon, though, is a good option, or would you just avoid that?
Yeah, I mean, I said I'd avoid all the kind of, Spurs defence apart from Perisic. I think the fact that he's now playing Perisic in both kind of wings on both sides is, good for his minutes. But yeah, again, Sessegnon, when he starts, he's a fantastic option, Dean, but we just don't know when that's going to be. I think, again, 4.5 million, we've got, quite a few kind of good options in that price point this season. You don't really need to risk them, I think.
Yeah, so Navy's asked a question which I want to get to, because I saw someone else just saying that they've got the same issue. He says, Abdul, I did Bailey and Perisic to Zaha and Guehi for a -4. Did I make a sensible decision? Be honest. So. Oh, you think you did?
I think it's good move, because Bailey is injured, and Perisic, I think, possibly could get rotated in 1 or 2 games over this period. So you've got Zaha and Guehi, you've got fantastic fixtures up until the World Cup. I think that -4 will pay itself off in the next few weeks for sure.
Navy is so happy he can sleep easy tonight knowing he's made the right decision going into the next game week. Right, let's get one more question before we have to close the show, guys. It's been a great one. Thanks for all of your questions. Right, Dal says, Abdul, I'm benching Tony as I have Pope and Trippier. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, I'm assuming it's a choice between benching Trippier and or Tony. And I think, that's a tough one. Yeah, I think he's got it right. I think I would bench Tony and play Trippier.
Would you? Yeah. I mean, look, Newcastle will be buoyant. I know that they beat a 10-man Fulham. I'm always going to throw that in. I'm a Fulham fan. But they got a lot of confidence out of that game. And I think that will really help Newcastle going into that Brentford fixture. I do fancy Newcastle actually to win that game. It's a big one for them as in the season when they're trying to prove they can get into Europe. Abdul, look, it's been brilliant to have you on tonight, mate. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm sure you are already following FPL Salah. If you're not, make sure you're doing it as soon as this show finishes. It's been a great one. Thanks to all of you for watching. I hope you have an absolute belter of a game week. This has been Chasing Green Arrows. We'll be back next week. See you soon.
Okay.